Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Vanchakalpatarubhescha Kripa Sindhubhe Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Ajanulambita Bhujokana Kavadatu Sankirtanai Kapitaro Kamalaya Taksha Vishwambara Dvijavara Yogadharma Pala Vande Jagat Priya Karo Karanavatar. Thank you very much, Devaki, for inviting me here and for arranging this program. What I like about Mother Devaki is that she is German and she keeps everything on time, so which is quite unusual for our ISKCON culture. Talking about the Institute of Spiritual Culture, that's the first thing which we should probably do. And she gave me the notes for this talk which I'm supposed to give, and I think she's much better than I could give this talk, judging from the notes. But I will share some of my observations and thoughts on this subject matter, which I personally find the most important. Culture means environment, and the environment can be, as we all know, conducive for our spiritual development, or can be not so conducive, can be counterproductive, can be not really nourishing to us. And the culture of respect is the foundation of the proper culture. Without respect, there is no culture. Actually, when we say culture of disrespect, that's Devaki's phrase, and it's a fact. We are born and we are grown up in this culture of disrespect, the model culture, which is definitely nourishing disrespectful attitude, egalitarian culture. It's actually an overstatement, because there is no such culture. It's something which is totally against any human culture. The foundation of any culture, because culture means the proper relationship with the environment, relationship with other human beings, other living entities, and ultimately relationship with God. That's the aspects of culture, and all these relationships are based on respect. And if we are talking about spiritual culture as such, we have to be very clear that the culture of respect is coming not from some superficial convention, not because we kind of, convene together and we want to establish certain respectful relationship. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says a very beautiful thing. He says that the culture of respect is coming from our shraddha, from our faith in scriptures. If we have faith based on Shastra, Shastriya Shraddha, then the respect is coming automatically. Because Shastriya Shraddha, understanding of the basic structure of Shastra, understanding the basic logic of Shastra, means to understand that God is present in every living entity. And God is present everywhere. And if we have this understanding, and means we have Shastriya Shraddha, then the respect is very natural, and you don't have to teach it, more or less. And vice versa, if you don't have respect to other living entities, it's a very simple statement of non-existence of your Shraddha. You're not even on the first level of your spiritual development, on the first stage of your bhakti ladder. You don't have Shraddha. So respect in this sense is not an option. It's not that you may have respectful relationship or you may not have respectful relationship. If you are in a spiritual society and if you have some ABC understanding of spiritual science, then the respect has to be there. They are totally inseparable from each other. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that there are 4 levels of respect according to the 4 levels of the advancement of a human being. He says there is a general respect for every human being, which has to be done because of the simple fact that God is present in everyone's heart. When you see anyone, the first thing which you should see in this person is that he is adishtan. Adishtan means the shelter of God. God is there in his heart. So if you see a human being or somebody who resembles human being, the first thought which should come to your mind is that is somebody in whose heart God is. And therefore I have to be respectful. It's a very high position in the evolutionary ladder to be a human being, and we have to be respectful regardlessly of who you are, women or a man or American or Donald Trump even, believe it or not, he also has God in his heart. Everyone in this sense. So we have to be respectful just because of the fact that this is the soul, Jiva, which reached a certain level of advancement and is, dear to God, he's related with God. Then Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that even greater respect should be given to dharmika jivas. Those jivas who follow principles of conduct, who know what it means to maintain this world, because the very word dharma means something. It's from the verbal root dri, which means to maintain, to support. So basically dharma is something which helps you to maintain your own life, to maintain your own health, your own existence, your own integrity. And dharma is something which helps you to maintain relationship with others, to maintain the society together, and to maintain the whole world together. So dharmika jiva who follow certain rules of conduct has to be given even more respect because of this dharma. And it doesn't matter in reality, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was very liberal, there is Hindu dharma, but there is some other principles which people follow, and they are somewhat overlapping with Vedic principles. They may not be as consistent and as scientific as Vedic principles. Still, nevertheless, it's dharma. And if people follow certain religious, ways and follow principles, that's fine. They have to be given even more respect. Then he says the next level of advancement, just 4 levels. Don't worry, it's not too long. So the next level of advancement is if somebody is Brahmana, but he gives a very beautiful definition of who is Brahmana. He says Brahmana is almost a Vaishnava. Vaishnava Praya. He's like a shadow of a Vaishnava. Brahmana is somebody who lives according to the Brahminical principles, which means that he values the knowledge, he values sattva gun, but sattvagun, of course, dharmika jiva is also valuing sattvagun, but it's higher because the spiritual knowledge is there. The value of spiritual knowledge, understanding of spiritual knowledge is there. And then he says then the highest, and actually he says that Kanishta Adhikaris, according to the classification of the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which Damodar Prabhu was quoting this verse, he says they are in this category. They are not Vaishnavas, they are Vaishnava Prayas, almost Vaishnavas. Almost Vaishnavas. Because they cannot enter into respectful relationship with other people. Because they don't value, they don't really have respect to other people, they only have respect to God, which is okay, but, and it basically means that they don't have Shastriya Shraddha. They don't have. But if you have Shastriya Shraddha, then you have to value them and respect them, and then the highest respect should be given to Vaishnavas, because Vaishnavas are those who have Shastriya Shraddha, who chant the holy name of God, and who are, and therefore they are most respectful. And this is again not the option. We have to respect all Vaishnavas very strongly. And the point which I'm supposed to make is that respect is the foundation not only of the culture, but of the culture where people are capable of taking relationship, of taking shelter and giving shelter. Because when we feel respect, and this respect is unconditional, and if we really clearly understand this concept that every human being has to be respected, and Vaishnavas have to be respected the most, this unconditional respect, which will be, exchanged in the proper society, proper cultured society of Vaishnavas, will make your heart open. I'm sure we all have this experience. If somebody comes to you and you feel genuine respect from this particular person, you really feel that your heart is opening towards this person. You want to give him something which you have, the most valuable thing. You want to share something. And vice versa, if there is no respect, when we are in the environment where this envious dealings between the devotees, or this envy and jealousy is there, and this sort of thing, that the immediate effect is that your heart closed up. You don't want to open your heart. You just want to, be as far away from this society of devotees as possible. As Mahatma Prabhu said, respect from a distance. Respect them from a distance. But the point is that, again, taking shelter and giving shelter means opening the heart. This is what Mahatma Prabhu was saying, that the counselor and counselee relationship, or mentor and mentoring relationship, is the relationship of open heart. But there is no question of opening heart without respect. It's the very minimum, it's the very minimal foundation. If respect is there, then the heart is there. Everything else is more or less follows automatically. And therefore, in any traditional culture, the respect is respect for seniors, elders, is the foundation of society. I was born in Uzbekistan. This is an Asian country which was a part of Soviet Union, which is separate now. And I could see how deeply ingrained this culture of respect, unconditional respect. If somebody is senior to you, in any regard, then he has to be respected. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he explains in Chaitanya Shikshamrita many different grades of respect, how you should respect. And actually, in the laws of Manu, it is said that Brahmanas, among the Brahmanas you should respect according to the level of their knowledge. Kshatriyas you have to respect according to their power. Vaishyas you should respect. Among the Vaishyas, the one who is senior is one who has more money. It's natural. And among Shudras is one who is older, then he should be respectful. There is no other criteria. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur says all these considerations have to be there. If somebody is older, you have to respect him. If somebody is richer than you, you have to respect him. If somebody is more powerful than you, and of course, if somebody has more knowledge, you have to respect him, irregardless of his age. He may be not of such a great age, but if he's more knowledgeable, you have to give respect. And the most destructive, absolutely the most horrible thing which we can see in the modern society, which unfortunately comes from America, is this destruction of this culture of respect, this egalitarian tendencies. Egalitarian tendencies, everyone is equal. Nobody is equal. Everyone is the object of my respect, and if I only feel that we are all equal, we are all the same, it's impersonalism. Actually, egalitarian culture is the culture of impersonalism, nirvishesha shunyavadi. Personal culture means everyone is respectable. And I have to really work on myself to develop this respectable or respectful attitude towards him. And in this way, this relationship of giving shelter and taking shelter will take place. At what we see in the modern society, we see all this social media, we'll see internet culture, which is totally, absolutely disrespectful. It's horrible what's happening, and it's killing the soul. It's actually killing the prospect for our spiritual advancement. Because when this tendency is planted within our heart, and it's planted subconsciously without even us willingly understanding this, when we read all these comments, all these chats, all these things, it kills the reverential attitude. It kills the spirit of awe and reverence. And it destroys, it completely destroys our possibility for spiritual development. Lord Kapila, he speaks about this in the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam in 29th chapter, when he says that there are 4 levels of disrespect. It's very interesting. Even though Mother Devaki didn't recommend me to do this, but still I will dare to say this. Because Lord Kapila Dev, in 4 consecutive verses which sound very similar, speaks about this, that if somebody sees worships the deity in the temple but doesn't respect other living entities, his worship is as if he is pouring ghee into ashes. And one after another he says practically the same things, but Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he explains beautifully that there are 4 levels of disrespect and 4 results of these 4 levels of disrespect. He says that the first level of disrespect, please listen very carefully because it directly relates to our spiritual future and to the prospects for our spiritual development. He says that the number 1, the slightest degree of disrespect is avagya. Avagya means, avagya, ava means down. When we look down at somebody. Avagya, I am just little arrogant, and I look, who says he thinks he is, he's from Russia, we know all these Russians, or this, Jews or Germans, or, or whatever. Whatever arrogance, whatever shape or form of arrogance we may have, we exercise it when we deal with the devotees, or, he's from this China, oh my goodness, China. This is avagya. Avagya, just little, from top down, we look down. And according to the beautiful analysis of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the result of such attitude, we may not even show it. It may be very subtle, just habitually, because we're all habituated in expressing this sort of disrespectful attitude on the basis of our birth or whatever it is, whatever else it is. Result of this is that we become more and more hypocritical. Vidambanam, the specific Sanskrit word which is used, you become more and more pretentious as a devotee. You lose your simplicity and your simple heart, that, yes, I'm a devotee, everyone is a devotee, everyone is very elevated, and, you start judging. This judgmental attitude grows more and more and more within your heart without even you wanting it, because you're not introspective enough, not really conscious enough to cut down this attitude of avagya. Like Guru Avagya, basically avagya means, he's just a human being, who he thinks he is. And we can see, I remember very clearly, even though I was in Russia, and at that time it was Soviet Union. It was quite closed under the behind the Iron Curtain. Still, we as neophyte devotees, beginner devotees, we had tremendous respect to all these senior people, Prabhupada's disciples, and somehow or other this innocent respect which was there in the society, and initially when we first came to Mayapur, it was still there. It's lost now. If somebody is a sannyasi, there is, all these jokes about sannyasis and all this kind of stuff. No, but result of it is that we're losing the simplicity of the heart, which is extremely necessary for our spiritual development. This Sharalata, according to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Sharalata means Vaishnavata. Vaishnava means simple. Simplicity means, I respect everyone. And because of this, because the pretense grows within our heart, we think everyone is pretender. We look somebody, he's in brahmachari. Oh, brahmachari means pretender. Yes, we know, And then we look somebody, she's a lady in a white sari. Oh my goodness, Yet another pretender. Or somebody with danda. Oh my goodness, he is the biggest pretender. Why? Because you're a pretender. Because you develop this attitude, and as a result of this attitude, this pretense grows within your heart, hypocrisy grows within your heart, and then you look at everyone as a pretender. You interpret everyone wrongly. And then what is the question of taking shelter and accepting shelter? There is no question. To whom you will open your heart? Nobody. So that's the first level. That's the slightest, the most, insignificant thing. The next level is upeksha. Upeksha means neglect. Upeksha means when you become so arrogant and so disrespectful that you just neglect. You pass by somebody, like Mother Devaki said, the culture of Haribol. It's not such a bad culture. At least you say Haribol. It may be not the greatest culture, but at least you say Haribol. It's already good. At least you recognize that somebody exists. Upeksha means you deny somebody's existence. You pass by him, you don't see him, you just go by him as if he doesn't exist. And it's very painful when you see this. And, we can see that sometimes it happens. And the horrible result of this, please listen to understand how really horrible results are there. The horrible result of this is ashraddha. You lose your faith. You ultimately lose your faith in God. Because the subconscious message which you give by this upeksha, by this neglect toward other living entities, but not properly respecting other living entities, recognizing that God is in their heart, ultimately you are negating the existence of God. You more or less, it's tantamount of saying that God doesn't exist because you don't see the part and parcels of the Lord. With your gross eyes, at least, you can see their existence. But if you deny their existence, if you are so arrogant that you just neglect their existence, then ultimately you lose your faith. You lose your faith in God. That's what Lord Kapila Dev says. It's not so explicit in these verses in 29th chapter. But then the next level of disrespect is dvesha. Dvesha means hatred. And when you start actively hating somebody. And again, it starts from our attitude, from this avagya. It starts rather innocently. If we don't cut down this tendency, if we don't check this tendency within our heart, then inevitably it will grow up to the level of dvesha, when you actively hate somebody, when you really hate somebody, dvesha, in the society of devotees. And Lord Kapila Dev says a beautiful thing, what is the result of such attitude. He says, the result of such attitude, you live in a very hostile environment. If you have this dvesha in the heart, then you naturally look at everyone and you think that everyone else is hating you. You're living among the enemies. And we can see how it works, sometimes I happen to have many relationships with many devotees, and sometimes I hear horrible things, like Mahatma Prabhu said, that being a counselor, you have to listen some offensive statement. And oftentimes, people come to me and they started explaining, describing the ISKCON or Society of Devotees, and I listen to this and I think, what they're talking about. They say everyone is so bad and everyone is hating and everyone is so inimical and this and that. And then I realize, as Mahatma Prabhu says, he's crying, he's describing his own state of consciousness. Because this is the result of dvesha. When you have dvesha within your heart, you will live among the enemies. Everyone will be inimical to you. And if you think that it's gone like this, please look in your heart. And please see if it's, if everything is okay, if you really value this respect. And ultimately, the gravest form of disrespect is ninda. When you openly criticize somebody. When you hate somebody, you may not even say this, but you just have this energy of hatred within yourself. But when you openly criticize this is the worst thing. Facebook ki jai. This is what's going on there in all this social media. There's ras of, sugar cane, or this kaju ras of this palm, and there is very special ras, ninda ras. the nectar of offense. And you drink this nectar of offense. You know, people, they really enjoy when they offend openly other people. They think it's some sort of enjoyment for them. And they get habituated of drinking this nindaras all the time, and they sustain their life in this ninda, in this thing. So basically what I want to say is that disrespect is the killer, the murderer of our spiritual life. If we want to develop spiritually ourselves individually, and if we want to develop the proper healthy society, we have to be extremely careful about establishing this culture of respect. And when I was listening Damodar Prabhu, and he was explaining about this competition among the boys when they were giving all these awards, Rupa Goswami Award, Haridas Thakur Awards, Jiva Goswami Bhaktivinoda Thakur Award, they should also give Sanatan Goswami Award, whom Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself says that he is the embodiment of Vaishnava etiquette. And he says this is the decoration of a Vaishnava. This is the most brilliant ornament which can be there if we really follow this respect. And Sanatana Goswami is not by chance our Acharya, and he is the Acharya of Sambandha Gyan. Sambandha Gyan, again, as I said, respect is the manifestation of Sambandha Gyan or your Shastriya Shraddha. If you have Shastriya Shraddha, you will have respect. If you don't have respect, you don't have Shastriya Shraddha. You do not understand Shastra. I'm sorry to say this. I'm just following the footsteps of Mahatma Prabhu. He said all these guys with dandas, they are heavy guys. and they're making you, you know, giving you some, you know, some psychological complexes develop in you, some hina bhav. So, but that's true. That if we have shraddha, if we have faith, it means that we have to have respect. And we have to be very strict about this towards ourselves. We have to be strict towards others. We have to demand that we should follow this culture of respect. That's the only possibility for us to have spiritual society. If there is no respect, there is no spiritual society. There is no spirituality. It's just a joke. It's a joke at best. So, and as far as the main topic, I already said that respect is the very minimum quality for opening the heart, taking shelter. Without respect, everyone will be just walking with closed heart, very sad, and he will not find you know, the solace in the spiritual society for his needs. He will not be able to confide to everyone, to open his heart, and ultimately he will die, inevitably die without this spirituality. So respect is the very necessary condition of our spiritual culture. And I'm very grateful to Mother Devaki for doing this Institute of Culture. I was very impressed when I once came to Bangladesh. And Bangladesh, if you have not been to Bangladesh, please go sometimes, at least once in your life, because Bangladesh is an amazing place. It's a Muslim country, and therefore it's closed country, and therefore Vaishnava culture is still there intact. If you go there, it's as if you are in Chaitanya Charitamrita, right there. They give you at least 50 different kinds of prasadam, and at least 20 different kinds of shak preparation, and then you immediately remember all these, you know, stories about Lord Chaitanya loving shak. And then they sit in front of you and then they start chanting bhajans and your heart melts and they will not let you go. I remember I was leaving the place where we had this seminar or whatever, the festival which was there, and the car couldn't move for at least half an hour because devotees, they were just coming there and they were saying something and they just, the car could not move. Because there were a relationship and because there was respect. I could feel this genuine respect without any unconditional respect. And because of this respect, the relationship was there. Without respect, there is no relationship. No relationship. No relationship. So, under the guidance of Mother Devaki and our illustrious guides, let's try to establish this culture. It's extremely important. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Maharaj, for your deep words of wisdom. So what do? Shall we have a little more discussion, or are there any questions? Or is everybody, is it kind of getting too late? Yes, Mataji.
Both have respect and also be realistic about something.
How we can have respect and at the same time be realistic. Sometimes people find these two things as contradictory notions, to be realistic, and usually in the modern context it means to be disrespectful because you see the reality and at the same time to have respect. In my humble opinion, there is no contradiction because you should see the reality. We should not be blind. We should see the shortcomings of people. We shouldn't artificially try to, blind ourselves to the deficiencies and faults of other people, but we should not allow ourselves to all these faults to overshadow the other side of the people, and we should relate with their Vaishnavata, with their Vaishnava personality, so to speak, and at the same time see in a very realistic way their shortcomings and perhaps faults, but not relate to them, because when due to disrespect we attack their faulty side, their, so to speak, human side, and we concentrate on them, first of all, it's very bad because we're meditating on their bad qualities and we're developing the same qualities, because we develop the same qualities which we meditate upon. And at the same time we're strengthening, we're more or less making them defensive, and we're strengthening their bad qualities, and the whole society becomes, the whole atmosphere becomes poisoned. Whereas if we still respect them as Vaishnavas and try to relate to their Vaishnava side, then it will be very easy for them to kind of overcome their attitude, as Mahatma Prabhu said about Jayananda Prabhu, how he transformed this. Because we don't have to be blind, but at the same time, we don't have to be blind to their good sides also. And again, if they feel respect, if they feel that they're hurt and if they feel that they're human beings, when we feel respect from others, we also develop dignity. And dignity means we behave in a certain level. We don't go below. What is happening in the modern society, very sad thing, people are losing their dignity, and therefore they behave in a very bad way. So respect is actually the way to establish in the people their proper dignity. When we respect your human being, your Vaishnava, then they will, in this way we will remind them, yes, I am a Vaishnava. Yes, I am a Vaishnava. It means that I have to behave this way. So there's no contradiction.
Actually, very often we hear this, that we think that we can only respect a person if that person is exemplary in all regards. And if a person is not perfect and exemplary, we think, oh, how can I respect this person? But I dare say there is actually envy behind it. Because as soon as we see somebody who has some shortcomings, we evaluate who is better. And in order to put the other person down and establish our superiority, we disrespect. And so I dare say, behind this tendency of disrespecting a person because he has some shortcomings, there is actually envy behind it. Because as Maharaj was saying, we are meant to respect every living entity, not only devotees, also non-devotees. Not only persons, but also animals, plants, and. And also I connected with the level of sense gratification. That as soon as the level of sense gratification rises, there is that culture of disrespect coming in, because sense gratification means we use others for our enjoyment.
Exploit, yeah.
Yes, we exploit. That's right. So there has to be disrespect there, otherwise we would never ever use others or Krishna's creation for my enjoyment. So sense gratification and disrespect, they go hand in hand.
And also there is a very beautiful analysis of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Sati is speaking about Lord Shiva and Daksha, how Daksha found faults in Lord Shiva. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that there are 5 levels of sadhus and 5 levels of asadhus. And he says that asadhus are those who see little fault, or who even don't see any fault, but find the fault when it doesn't exist. This is asadhus. And sadhus are opposite to this. They may see faults, but they will interpret it as a good qualities even. So there is this gradation of sadhutva and asadhutva, this quality of sadhu. Sadhu, he sees good qualities in other people, and asadhu, the tendency of an asadhu is to magnify. We all have this magnifying glass within ourselves and we see some little fault and we magnify it, and it's easy, Ramachandra Puri, he saw some ants near the room of Lord Chaitanya, and he says, oh, this sannyasi must be eating sweets. Look, ants are crawling there. So, he found faults in Lord Chaitanya, so what to speak about us? Anyone can find faults in us.
All right, so let me... I kind of look at the watch and some people are going... Yeah, no, I don't want people to leave without taking some prasadam. So, but there can be private further exchange and discussion. So I just want to mention a few words to wrap up the whole program a little bit. That let us remember that without having these sheltering relationships in our life, without having a trusting, well-wishing friend who has no other interest except my spiritual growth and development, it is actually very difficult to really make advancement. Because as long as we have material desires and attachments, and I think we all do, we actually cannot objectively assess ourselves. Our vision of ourselves is clouded, and we cannot really see where we may have to adjust our practice, whether our practice is balanced. We cannot really objectively see. So we do all need a person who helps us see where we are at and which is the next step to move forward to. Otherwise, very easily we become stagnant and we just live a kind of a humdrum life, plodding along, doing our usual things, but we're actually not really moving forward. And unless we become a person who reaches out selflessly and has a genuine concern about other devotees' development and is willing to sacrifice their time and energy to uplift others, then our life will be superficial. We remain kanishta actually. So that's why these two principles of giving shelter to others and accepting shelter ourselves, they're of such greatest importance for us to really move forward in our spiritual life and share whatever life experience and realizations we have received, that we share this with others. And then, you know, if we have such relationships in our life, then we can really we can really progress, and our relationships will become more deep and meaningful, really. So I'd like to really, conclude on that note that this, I hope this program has helped us to walk home with this conviction that we do need sheltering relationships in our life. And we can all ask ourselves, do I actually have such a person in my life where I know this person has no other interest except my spiritual growth and development? Do I have such a person in my life? And if we don't, then I almost dare say we do lead a risky life, actually, no matter on which level of advancement we may be. Like my favorite example is always Bharat Maharaj. You know, the fact how he fell down and took birth as a deer, actually he didn't have a mentor. You know, he didn't have anybody to tap him on the shoulder and say, hey, it's enough with the deer now. You know, let the deer be deer and get back to your spiritual practice. I mean, he got really carried away, you know, having the deer on his chest, embracing it at night. When you read it in the Bhagavatam, you really think, oh my God, you know. But this is a very strong warning to us that even on the level of bhava, which means we have transcendental emotions, they can transform back into material attachments if we are not very careful, if we don't have such sheltering relationships in our life. So we can all ask ourselves, do we have such well-wishing, confidential, trusting friend in our life? And how much are we concerned about other devotees' spiritual progress? How much are we willing to shed our time and energy and blood to uplift others? So that kind of, those 2 points I would like to impress on all of you, to take that home. And to conclude, I would like to read this nice quote. Actually, yes, by the way, there is a book, Sheltering Relationships, which is available there on the table. There I'm going through a whole journey of trying to convince my readers from all different angles why without sheltering relationships we cannot move forward. There's a whole chapter on respect and so many other qualities we have to have in order to give shelter and in order to take shelter. So yes, please on the way out have a look at this book. I do want to read one powerful quote to you all, which I put on the back. This is from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur from Amrita Vani. He says there, one who gives personal instruction to each and everyone does more for others than the platform speakers do. Platform meaning sitting on a raised platform. Generally, whatever platform speakers say cannot solve the problem of everyone in the audience, nor can it always benefit every individual. A person's defects are better rectified in a private tutorial class or private coaching than in hearing lectures in a school or college. Therefore, those who instruct particular persons separately can award them something more permanent. wow, when I came across this the first time, it really struck me, it really hit me. And I feel this is not commonly understood amongst us devotees, that this one-to-one is so important. This is absolutely necessary to actually correct our defects. I mean, not minimizing Krishna Katha, but we can easily, continue just hearing Krishna Katha for so many years. And we maintain our defects and our ego patterns of behaviors, and very easily this can take place. So this one-to-one, Bhaktisiddhanta says it very clearly. This is what is required to actually correct our defects. And a person who offers that kind of service actually gives something more permanent. So we tend to judge our preaching very often according to numbers. How many people are taking part in the program? But no, this one-to-one, highly important. And our Diksha and Shiksha gurus often have so many disciples. They often cannot know each and every person's individual situation in life. Not possible if you have thousands of disciples. So we do have to have, a well-wishing friend on a more regular basis who can really help us to see how are we serving, how are we cooperating, how is our sadhana, and give us some corrections also. Sheltering relationship means we want to be corrected by this person. Then it is a sheltering relationship. Yeah, so these few little things I would like to establish by wrapping up this program. And I quickly want to also show that there is a couple other books there which are also of great interest and relevance. This is called Spiritual Culture, Krishna's Divine System. I dare say if we don't have the knowledge discussed in this book, there's a good chance we will give the wrong advice, especially in marriage problems. So this book is highly interesting for anybody who wants to have harmonious relationships with the other gender. It has saved already many marriages, and in Bhaktivedanta Manor they use this book as a handbook for brahmachari training, even though it is all about the important position a woman actually plays in human society. So, and this book is also available now in Russian language. So if anybody here cannot read English, so please get a copy of this book. It is very insightful. And last but not least, the book I just published a few days ago, The False Ego, Our Constant Companion and Troublemaker. And this topic of false ego is also very much connected with the topic of mentorship, because without having a mentor, very difficult to recognize how the false ego affects us every day, because it is so subtle. So yes, please have a quick look at the books.